So Gurren Lagann is underrated now, right? Ayo guys. So if you see my content recently, that wouldn't be the first time you hear that statement from me, but I think it's true. Gurren Lagann is a classic, amazing anime. I love it. But how often do you hear people talking about it? Nowadays, it's Demon Slayer this, Jujutsu Kaisen that, or Call Me a Dog because Chainsaw Man is coming out soon, and you know what that means. But don't take this as I'm being an elitist weeb who hates new age manga and anime. I actually really love it. I'm going to be that guy who talks up Kaiju number 8 when it comes out because I've been collecting the manga, so that makes me better than you. And please release quicker. Why does it come out quarterly? But thanks to Netflix, some older anime have gotten their second wind to shine. Cowboy Bebop just had a live action and that brought up some hype for the series. Was the live action good or not? That depends on you. Honestly, I didn't watch it because of Twitter and the internet, but I'll get to it one day. But I'm sure some people have checked out the anime because of the live action. I'm sure somebody out there did like the live action and wanted to see how the series continued. And for those that didn't like the live action, hopefully checked out the anime to see if the anime was good. And for those that didn't like the live action and did not watch the anime, what are you waiting for? Watch the anime. It's amazing. It has one of the best anime endings out there. It's one of my personal favorites. I'm gonna say it. I'm going to say it. The ending for Cowboy Bebop was better than Code Geass. I said it. It's true. And then Netflix got the rights to Neon Genesis Evangelion, making the series finally be accessible to newer generations since it was in studio purgatory for so long and was being held hostage and impossible to watch unless you paid disgusting amounts of money on DVDs or you became a straw hat pirate. And sure, the dub was redubbed and some of the subtitles were updated and changed, but for the most part it was Evangelion on Netflix. Say what you want about Netflix, I know I've shat on them for ruining the hype for JoJo Stone Ocean, but they do help bring back some exposure to some classic animes and have done a really good job of just putting anime on the forefront on Netflix. Does Netflix fuck up? Almost every time, but at least with the Death Note movie, which was awful and terrible, at least they gave us Willem Dafoe as Ryuk, and that was probably one of the most perfect castings ever. And just to get back on Evangelion really quickly, even if Netflix didn't get the rights to make the anime more accessible, but Hideaki Anno was actually rebooting his series with the rebuilt Eva movies, and that brought back some life to the series, which was great because I liked the movies, but it also sucked because a lot of people wanted to watch the original Eva and had no options to watch it, so they had to become pirates and get through a lot of anime to watch the series. So I guess thanks Netflix, even though you kind of change it a bit, but hey, it's more accessible. And before I get to the topic of the video, just one more thing. Adult Swim brought back some hype for Fooly Cooly by producing 2 new seasons for it, and then recently ordering 2 more seasons on top of the 2 seasons that have already came out. And these new seasons will just bring even more new eyes to the original, which is obviously still the best one. People will finally get to experience what a wild ride of a story that was, the animation and the great music made by the Pillows. There are so many classic animes gaining a boost in exposure thanks to studios just banking on nostalgia, recapturing old fans, and creating new fans. But what about animes that haven't been lucky enough to get a reboot, a new season, continuing the story, a movie, or at least a side story? And I know that this might be a dumb statement because a lot of the classic anime that I'm talking about are rated really highly. But I'm here to argue that something that's been rated highly can still be underrated because sometimes they might be overrated or sometimes people just don't give it a chance. Like for an example, Cowboy Bebop is a damn classic, but it's not the only works by the same director. You can watch Samurai Shampoo with this amazing soundtrack. This anime just screams so much style, there is so much to love about it, just like Cowboy Bebop. There were great wars on which series was better. These kids do not know about this because it's so rare to hear it get recommended or on the top of anime lists nowadays. Hell, even Space Dandy, which isn't even that old compared to these 2 shows, doesn't even get its name thrown out there as a show you should probably check out, and all of these great shows are directed by, excuse me if I mispronounce this, Shinichiro Watanabe. I totally messed that up. And here's a really interesting case, Steins Gate. Yes, the first couple episodes might be a bit confusing, some might even say slow, and how dare they say that, but the anime has one of my most favorite character developments with Okabe. But what makes this an interesting case is that if you go on a lot of top anime lists and high ranking scoring, it's one of the top 5. But it doesn't really translate because you don't really hear the anime community talking about it that much. And it's strange because there have been sequels to it since it's been based on a visual novel game, And even now they have announced another sequel, but I guess you can't strike gold twice or oil or however the saying goes, because even the first sequel, Steins Gate 0, barely gets mentioned around in the anime community. That's what makes Steins Gate so interesting, because it's had so many things to keep it relevant, and it's one of the most highly rated shows out there. And just like I said earlier, just because something is rated highly does not mean it can be underrated, because sometimes when something's rated so high, people can just overrate it and say it's not that good, and since it's one of the things that it's rated so highly, it's easy for someone that's new to anime to just start watching it and be very underwhelmed by something like Steins Gate. And I know this might be dumb to put into a category, but Steins Gate is definitely not a starter anime for people just starting out watching anime. You definitely can't tell someone that just started watching Demon Slayer just to watch Steins Gate, because they're gonna expect something on the level of like Demon Slayer. If someone starts watching anime with a show like Demon Slayer, you gotta introduce them to another shonen show, and maybe not exclusively a shonen show, but they're used to watching something that's fast-paced with a lot of action, some jokes, and that is definitely what not Steins Gate is about. And some people might think that it's rated so highly because people are pretentious, it's not that good, and people will just say a lot of things if they're not impressed, especially if it takes 8 episodes to get good, quote unquote, what they say about Steins Gate. And that's how I would say that a highly rated show like Steins Gate has become underrated. But maybe I shouldn't stick to just specific shows, because the fan bases are gonna come out strong and say things like, well, we still talk about it. Well, like, yeah, of course you're gonna still talk about it, it's your favorite anime. But that is not the point of this video. I'm not talking about fan bases. The point is that the anime community as a whole are just talking about the shiniest, newest shows, and we hardly hear about these classics anymore. And it doesn't help that a lot of these shows have been in purgatory, making them even harder to watch and harder to recommend. Monster was a hard show to stream or watch legally, but now Netflix has picked up the rights to it, and actually Netflix has picked up a bunch of shows that were hard to find too. So many of these titles that I would have added on this video, so check out the list on screen, but before this deal there was no way of watching a lot of these shows legally. And there are still shows like Baccano, Cross Game, and even Satch Bell. Satch Bell is actually getting a new series, but the original series is not available anywhere to stream legally. And if it weren't for Netflix acquiring all these shows, they would have been stuck in studio purgatory for who knows how much longer. And now let's move on to a sad and probably a touchy discussion, the it's too old looking anime. People do not respect the classics. I love Brotherhood more than the 2003 Fullmetal Alchemist, but not because it looks better, but because it is better. But I still really like the animation on the 2003 one, and I feel like maybe a lot of people might skip out on that one because there's Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, who's the shinier, and it's better, but there's still a place for the 2003 one, and I definitely think that you should still check it out because it's worth watching. There are so many amazing older animes out there, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of newer kids don't want to watch them because they've been spoiled by the new animation. I mean, the new Demon Slayer is—
What did I just say? What? Demon Slayer? Demon Slayer is
being carried by the animation alone, and I can almost understand why it might be harder to go back to older anime, but I still do it because there's still great stories that you haven't experienced yet. Hell, even One Piece is technically a 90s anime, and it's a double play for those that refuse to watch this masterpiece because it's so old, and it's also old looking to start. They do not know what they're missing out on. And I know that One Piece is one of those animes that are the furthest things from being underrated, but the fact that a lot of people refuse to watch it for those 2 reasons alone make it underrated, because it really is a good show. I mean, the manga is better, but the show is really good. And I know it'll be pretty biased coming from me because look at my profile picture, but trust me, it's worth it. It's not long enough, if anything. Shoot, a lot of people might even choose to read the manga instead of watching the anime if it's older than 2006. Which is pretty valid because a lot of the manga still looks great today even compared to newer mangas, but the same can be said about a lot of older animes. And I'm not trying to say that old anime looks bad, I'm just saying, obviously newer anime is a lot nicer looking. But one show that does have a better older anime compared to its newer anime, it's Berserk, and Berserk 1997 is probably the best version of the anime out there because the newer versions are a CGI mess. I'm not here to say that the Berserk series is underrated because everyone loves the manga. It's probably the top manga of all time, but a lot of people underestimate the 1997 Berserk anime. Yes, Berserk is one of the most popular manga series out there and probably is the best manga of all time. I still haven't finished it, so I can't confirm it, but the hype of a manga will never compare to the hype of an anime, sadly. And a lot of anime watchers do not like to read manga, even though they like to watch sub, and that's basically reading a visual novel. But I would recommend a lot of people to watch the 1997 Berserk anime because it is underrated and a lot of people won't recommend it, but I think it's still good enough that people will like it and probably get interested in reading the actual manga. And now I have to confess to an awful sin because I'm pretty ashamed of it, but I've never watched the Slam Dunk anime because I do think it looks too old. And I know there's going to be comments saying that the anime is worth watching and it's really good, but I've been spoiled by Kuroko's basketball. But don't worry, I am going to get to the series, but I'm going to read the manga and I'm going to try to collect the manga physically, even though that seems impossible right now, but I think there's been rumors of it restocking, so I'm gonna, check that out. And I'm not trying to say that Kuroko's basketball is better than Slam Dunk. I have not watched anything about Slam Dunk. I have no idea what the show's really about, besides it's being a basketball anime. I'm part of the problem though, but maybe I'm wrong to call these shows underrated because a lot of these shows can be found at the top of a lot of top anime lists, ranked on websites like Mal, or controversially it can be considered overrated because they don't stand the test of time. And the reason why I thought of this topic was because I had just recently finished reading Soul Eater and thought how underrated the series is because a lot of people don't watch it, and I wonder if it's because of the anime, because the anime ending was really bad, but the show was still good before that fact, and I think that the show is still kind of underrated. And then I was thinking about other anime that came around the same time like Gurren Lagann and how no one really talks about that show either, and that's why I'm saying that it's also underrated. But I hate to say it, but the anime community today is spoiled by all the new anime. There is so much anime now, and contrary to a lot of people's beliefs, and I'll argue that it's a lot of quality anime. This fall 2022, we are getting Mob Psycho 3, Chainsaw Man, Bleach, Spy Family, and My Hero Academia. This has been a great year for anime, so it almost leaves no time to watch a lot of the anime backlog. I struggle with it too, but when you go online to see a lot of con videos of people asking what their favorite animes are, a lot of the time it's going to be a lot of newer anime or just the more iconic series like Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, and One Piece. Once again, I'm not saying that new anime isn't good, it's great. Anime is on fire right now, and for those that had just gotten into it, there is still a lot of great anime out there that isn't Demon Slayer, and Dragon Ball Z isn't the only good old anime. I just thought that this was an interesting topic because I find it crazy that a lot of the top anime from back in the day can be considered underrated now. And hopefully it's not because these great shows have been forgotten, but due to the fact that how crowded the great anime debate has gotten. And we have a lot of recent bias going on. But one thing never changes, and that is that Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is still the best. It's just fact. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. What animes are underrated, overrated, or you think I'm just plain wrong about the whole topic. And if you made it this far into the video, don't forget to hit the like button. I would appreciate that a lot. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe and help me reach 1,000 subscribers so my channel won't be underrated anymore. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Can you guys tell me I'm underrated? Please?